All right, so now that we have entered the data on the rooms table, it's now time for us to go back now and look at the next set of instructions for us to follow. I hope you are still seeing my screen. Are you still seeing my screen with the word spreadsheet project questions?
Yes, miss.
All right, great. Now, it says on the residence sheet, you're to add 2 columns, one for room type and one for cost. So I'm going to go back to the worksheet. I'm going to click on residence and I'm going to type room type. Use my tab key to move over and I'm going to type cost. Now, you are going to be asked, the question is going to require you to, it says enter the room type for each residence and use an appropriate function to fill in the cost per room based on the room type. So let me explain what you're going to be doing. You are going to be deciding who gets which room type. I don't care who you give what type. You just decide what kind of room type you're going to give those persons, right? And the room types are these. I would suggest that you copy and paste them, or you have to type them out exactly as they appear, because if you don't type them exactly as they appear, right? If you don't type them exactly as they appear, then you're going to end up with a situation where when you are going to do the function that is going to follow this, it will not work properly. So remember, I did the solution already. I'm just going to copy what I have so that I don't waste time typing in the different room types. So I'm going to highlight and copy from my other sheet, and I'm going to paste it in this sheet. Remember, you will have to type yours. Right, so now I have my room type. Then we're going to do the cost. Notice it says you are to, based on the room type, fill in the cost per room. Now the function that we're going to be using to do this is called Vlookup. All of these functions are in your notes that was posted to the Google Classroom, so you can review the notes on the Vlookup function from the Google Classroom. VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup, meaning vertical up and down. You're going to be looking up and down in a column for a value based on another value. So we're going to be looking for the cost of this room based on the name of the room. So when we find the name of the room in this area that we're searching, we're going to use the name of the room to find the cost, and we're going to insert the cost inside of this cell right here. Now, how does the VLOOKUP function work? First thing you're going to do is type equal, then VLOOKUP. Double click on the VLOOKUP. It opens a bracket. It takes 4 arguments, students. It takes a lookup value, a table array, a column index number, and a range lookup. All of these values are separated by a comma, right? So the lookup value is the value that you're looking for. You're going to be looking up in the table. We're going to be looking for the room type, right? So I click on the room type for the first person. Whenever you're doing any function or formula in Excel, all you need to do is do it for the first person. And then I'll show you what to do afterwards. So we're looking for the room type for this person, Darla Addison, right? So we say the lookup value is the room type, which is single deluxe. We don't care what is in the cell. We just want to know that this is a cell that we want to be using as a lookup value, and whatever is inside of it is going to be our lookup value. Then I put my comma. See, Excel now moves to table array. Table array is that table that is in Excel, wherever it is, that has the lookup value and also the value that we want to insert in the current cell. Now, this table array is on the rooms table. When you are moving in between sheets in Excel, you need to be careful, right? So we already have our comma, so we can quickly move to the table, to the rooms sheet. We want to highlight, sorry, these 2 columns. The one that has the room type and the cost. So we click on single, hold down the mouse, drag across, and then down. Let me do that again. Click on single, drag across, and drag down and release. Right? So this is your table array. Now, do not do anything as yet. Your table array must be made absolute. And I'm going to explain absolute and relative cell addressing in another forum. To make any cell or any range absolute, you're going to press F4 on your keyboard. If you are using a desktop keyboard, then you can simply click F4. But if you're using a laptop, I'm not sure what your laptop looks like. If it has a full keyboard, you may be able to press F4 without having to press the function key. Mine is not a full keyboard, so I have to press the function key and then press F4. All right, nothing is happening. My thing is, all right, good. So function key F4. And if you notice in the formula bar, it changes. So I have some dollar signs in front of the column name and a dollar sign in front of the column number. What this does is when I copy the formula into the other cells below, it ensures that this cell reference will change as we go down for each person, but this table array, this range, will not change because we always have to come back to this range to look for the room type and to get the cost. Before we move back to the other sheet, we put in the comma. If we don't put in the comma, what it will do is I went back to let me show you what happens if I don't put in the comma. If I went back to residence, you see it come up with an error, right? So we have to be careful. So I'm going to just do this part over, make sure that I don't have any errors. So for the table array, I'm going to highlight these cells. Press F4 on my keyboard or function F4, depending on what you have, put in my comma. Then it says column index number. Usually Vlookup makes use of two columns. One of the column has usually the first column has the lookup value, and the second column has the answer that we're looking for. So this is column 1, this is column 2, and because the cost is in column 2, we're going to type 2. Then we put in our comma, and it asks us if we want an approximate match or an exact match. VLOOKUP you can use ranges of values in VLOOKUP. But if you have the exact thing that you're looking for, you select false. But if not true, you can double click on the false or type it in, and you can close the bracket and press enter. You will notice that the cost for the single deluxe comes up. And let us compare. Single deluxe, 2,300. Single deluxe, 2,300. Now, Excel is so wonderful that you don't have to type the function over and over again. You only need to type it once. And once you have typed it, you can do what is called auto-filling. Auto-filling copies the formula or the function from one cell into adjoining cells. So because these other cells are going to be using the same function, I don't need to type it over. Once I have press enter and it brings up the value, all I need to do is ensure that the cell is selected, and I place my cursor over what I call the fill handle. I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit better. The fill handle is this little green box right here in the lower right-hand corner of the cell. If I put my mouse over it properly, it will give me a black plus sign. Once you see the black plus sign, it means that you're ready to autofill, and autofilling means copying the function from one cell into other. So I'm going to click when I see the black plus sign, hold on my mouse, and then I'm going to drag down to the very last person. And it will fill in the cost per night for each person. As I'm going along, I normally do my formatting. I don't wait until the end. So given that this is highlighted as at this point, I'm going to change the number format to currency. So I'm going to be under the home tab. Make sure the cells are highlighted now. Go to the home tab. If you're not, that is if you're not under the home tab. So click on the home tab if you're not there. And in the number group, where you see general and the drop-down arrow, click on the drop-down arrow and select currency. And that will put in the dollar signs for you. Now, if you recall, I said to you earlier, when you see the hashtag signs, it means that the column is not wide enough, so you need to widen the column. So I'm going to double click and widen the column. All right. So now that I have widened the column, I'm going to move on to the next instruction. Next instruction says you are to add the following columns to the residence sheet to store the number of nights and calculate the amount due. So I'm going to add 2 additional columns, number of nights and amount due, and then come back to look at the instructions. So to the right of this, I'm going to add number of nights tab, amount due, right? And I'm going to wrap this text, meaning I don't need a very wide column for the number of nights, and so I don't want to open it up wide like this. Well, let me put the S on it, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it back like so, and I'm going to wrap the text so that it falls into 2 lines and keeps the column nice and narrow. So I click on the cell that I want to wrap, and I go to the alignment group in the home tab, and I click on wrap text. And you notice it wraps the text underneath. The amount due I'm not going to do the same thing for, because the amount due column is going to need to be wide enough. All right. Here is the instruction for adding the number of nights. It says you are to enter the number of nights for each resident. The residents are not allowed to stay less than 5 nights, and they are not allowed to stay more than 30 nights. So it says use validation rule to ensure that the value ranges from 5 to 30. And the instructions are there in terms of where you should go. Okay, so because the values can only be from 5 to 30, we're going to add validation rules. So what we do is go back to the sheet. Now, in order to ensure that any value that comes, if we had to say extend the spreadsheet and add additional data here, what you should be able to do is this validation rule should extend all the way down. You don't have to, you could easily select just the cells that you want to add the validation rule to, but I'm going to highlight the entire column, and I'm going to go to data, that's the data column tab, and in the data tools group, I'm going to click on data validation, then data validation, right? So when it comes up, typically it's gonna come up on the settings. Mine did not come up on the settings because I had done some validation before. So where it says any value, you're going to select whole number because nobody stays 2.5 nights. And then you are going to, in the minimum section, you're going to type 5, and in the maximum box, you're going to type 30, right? We want to have an input message. An input message meaning when the person clicks in the cell, it tells them what they should do. Tells them what they should do. So we want to say enter a value from 5 to 30. And the error message that you want to come up if they enter a wrong value is to say wrong value entered 5 to 30 accepted. You can choose your own message, but this is what I am going to be using. All right, you can give it a title. I'm not going to bother to give it a title, and I'm going to click OK. And where see here it says now enter a value from 5 to 30. If I click in the cell, any cell I click in that is in the range. So if I entered say 1 and press enter, it brings up error message, wrong value entered, 5 to 30 accepted. All right, so I'm going to just copy the number of nights that I had before on the other sheet to save time. But you will need to enter yours. All right, so there are my number of nights. Now, let's talk about formulas. Formulas in Excel are pretty much the same as formulas in math, in your math class. Your formulas in Excel will make use of all the mathematical operations or more than one of them. So we know that the mathematical operators are addition, subtraction, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Those are the mathematical operators. So in your formulas, you're going to be using these. Now, functions are different from formulas. Your formulas are those calculations that you perform in Excel based on your specific needs and the values that you have represented in the spreadsheet. But your functions are predefined calculations that are created and inside of the spreadsheet program. For example, sum and add, sum and max and min and all of those. I will talk about those at a later date, but for sufficing to say, we're going to be using a formula to calculate the amount due. Now, if you have, based on what I have here, students, how would you calculate the amount due? Anybody can answer quickly. And how will you calculate the amount due?
Miss, I don't know.
All right, so you have the cost and you have the number of nights. How do you calculate the amount due?
I have the cost and I have the amount. I got times the f of x.
No,
So
man,
f
just tell me, you just use layman.
What I'll do is multiply the times the amount by the cost.
Right, the number of nights by the cost. That's all I wanted to know, because you don't know how to do the formula yet. So how do we do a formula in Excel? We start with an equal sign, as I said before. In Excel, we do not type raw values unless it's a constant into the formula. We use the cell addresses, and that's why it was important for you last week to understand cell addresses and how to write or type them. But to save time, I don't bother to type the cell address. I simply click on the cell. So we know that the amount due is going to be the cost times the number of nights. So I type my equal sign. I click on the cell for the first cost. I type my asterisk, and we use the asterisk for multiplication. And then I click on the number of nights, right? I click on the number of nights. So K7 is the cost and L7 is the number of nights. Once I have that, I press enter and it calculates the amount that is due. Just as when we did the Vlookup, we're not going to type the formula over and over. It's a waste of our precious time. So we're going to autofill. And remember, autofilling is copying the formula or function from one cell into adjoining cells because they are using the same function or formula. So the fill handle, remember again, is in the lower right-hand corner. It's the green box. Depending on the version of Excel you're using, the color of the lines around the box may be different, and so the color of the box is going to be different. All you need to know is a little square in the lower right-hand corner. Put your mouse over it. Once you see that nice little black plus sign, it means that you're ready to autofill. Click on the mouse and drag. And remember, if you're clicking, it's going to be your left click, not your right click. Your left click, click and drag down to the last person and then release your mouse. And that will fill in the formula for everybody. So type it once and autofill. All right? Any questions so far? All right, so since there are no questions, we're going to move on to the next set of instructions. All right, so we did this and we calculated the amount due. We're now at part C. It says, add a new column to show the amount due in USD. And up the top, if you had read the instruction, it says to you that some of the relatives of the residents prefer to pay in US dollars, so we also have to show the amount due in US dollars. Right? So now that I have the amount due in Jamaican dollars, I'm going to, let me see what the label was before I put it in. All right, so when you type amount due in USD, so I'm going to scroll over and say a amount due, and then I'm going to put USD dollars to differentiate it from the other amount due. I'm going to also wrap the text by clicking on the cell. I'm going to the home tab, and then I'm going to select wrap text. Now I'm going to widen the column a bit because I don't want it in 3 rows. I'm going to readjust the column, the row here. Then I'm going to now work it out. Now, you don't have the conversion rate on the spreadsheet yet. So the conversion rate up here, it says $1 to 156 Jamaican dollars. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the rates here. So I'm going to put USD $, and I'm going to put 156. And I'm going to format this 156 to currency by clicking on it, go into the home tab, and then you're going to go to the number group and select currency from the general drop-down box. All right. Now I'm going to teach you something new because you need to understand it for this. So we have what is called absolute and relative cell addressing. You have been using relative cell addressing so far. You notice when I type the formula here, or when I type the function here, I could easily click on autofill.
Yes.
Yes, Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed that we are seeing the one screen and you are doing the work. Why you're not showing us what you are doing? Make it visually see it.
You are not seeing the spreadsheet that I'm working on?
I see the spreadsheet, but I don't see the work that you are doing. Like the autofill and the conversion in the rate and all of those things. We're just looking, well, for me, I'm just looking, where am I? Oh, amount due in US. That's where you are now.
Yes, because I did the autofill on this already, and I showed the autofill on this one as well.
Amount due. Oh, maybe I weren't at the right section then.
Okay. I'm going to do it
Right,
again in this. I'm going to do it again in this, but I'm going to teach you something different because we're talking about the fact that so far we have been using relative cell addressing. Relative mean as I autofill, I'm going to delete this portion so I can explain. You notice here that if I click on here, it says K7 times L7, right? K7 times L7. So when I autofill, even though in this formula it says K7 times L7, the spreadsheet automatically adjusts it for each row. So when I autofill and go down like this, so this is a fill handle, Everton, the little green square in the lower right-hand corner. To autofill, I need to click on the fill handle and drag. So I put my cursor over the fill handle. Can you see that, Everton?
Yeah, I'm for. The problem is I might be was at the wrong spot because we have to keep moving the sheet to follow you, yeah?
Okay, all right. So once you
put in the formula.
So once you put in the formula and press enter, you put your mouse pointer over the fill handle, which is a little green box in the lower right-hand corner. And once you put your mouse over it and you see that black plus sign, it means that you're ready to autofill. You click, and that is left click now, and drag down. And drag down and highlight the cells that you want to autofill that formula in. When I release my mouse, the formula will be filled in and it will do the calculation for the other rows. Now let us look at this one. Remember, this is the first one that we entered. Equal K7 times L7. And that is fine for this row. So when I double click, you see the two cells highlighted, right? I'm going to press escape to disengage the cell. Now, if I click in this cell, so if I double click in it, you notice it automatically had adjusted to K8 times L8. And that is how relative cell addressing works. Once I autofill, it automatically adjusts the formula for each corresponding row. So it doesn't say K7 times L7 because that was what I typed up here, but it adjusted to K8 times L8 because of relative cell addressing as I go down. I'm going to press escape and double click on the bottom one, and you notice the same thing. It adjusted to the two cells for this particular row. However, there are times, students, and I'm going to move on my screen a little bit. There are times when you want a cell reference to remain the same in either a function or a formula. And this is a perfect example. We know that this is the amount due in Jamaican dollars, but we want it in US dollars. How do we convert $46,000 to US dollars?
Divide one.
Speak up, I can barely hear.
You're gonna divide 156 by 46,000.
It's the other way around. You're gonna divide 46,000 by 156. Now, do you agree, students, that if I use this cell reference, what is it? Which cell is the 156 in?
N5.
N5. It means, therefore, Courtney and others, that the N5 reference in my formula will have to be the same for every single row. Do you agree?
the N5, yeah.
Yes, because is it only this 156 we're going to be using? I'm going to show you without using absolute cell addressing to show what can happen if you do not use absolute cell addressing. So under normal circumstances, we would say equal. Remember, we start every formula or function with an equal sign, and we click on the 46,000, whatever cell it is, in this case it's M7, and we say divided by this 156. For anybody who just signed in, we do not use raw values in our functions or formulas unless they are constants. So we use a cell reference, and the reason for that is this. If you, I'm going to show you, I'm going to just show it to you so that you understand that you have to use a cell reference. So I'm going to type 46,000 and I'm going to type 156 here. It gives me the correct answer, but look at what is going to change if I were to change 20 from 20 to 10. You notice that the US amount did not change?
Yes, miss.
And that's because I did not use a cell reference. Now I'm going to put back the 20 and I'm going to type back this formula the correct way. Equal 46,000 divided by the 156 using the cell reference and press enter. Now watch what is going to happen when I change this 20 nights to 10. Do you see the amount you change automatically? I'm going to put back the 20 and look at the change back. Now, the reason why it changes is because you are using the cell reference and not the value. So anytime the value inside of the cell changes, the functions or the formulas will always readjust themselves. All right, so if you made an error and you enter the wrong value, as long as you use the cell references in your formulas or functions, the spreadsheet will adjust automatically. All right, now I'm going to show you what I mean by why we need absolute cell addressing. So I have used relative cell addressing to type this formula, and I'm going to autofill as usual because that's what we normally do. We're not going to type over the formula over and over. What do you notice? Some values, right? Now, the first one is going to be correct because it's going to select the 46,000 and divide it by 156. That's correct. Now, if I were to click on this, do you notice what it is dividing the 23,000 by?
M8.
The amount due, which is words. And look at this one now. Sorry, look at this one now. It's dividing the 51,000 by value. So what you notice with relative cell addressing, students, is as you autofill and go down, it changes the cell reference one row at a time as it goes down. No, because that is what is happening with this. In the first cell, it will have the correct thing. But if you leave it like this, when you autofill, it's gonna change M7 to M8 and N5 to N6. Look, M7 to M8 and N5 to N6. But as I said earlier, we do not want this cell reference N5 to change when we autofill. We want it to remain the same because it is the same 156 that we are going to be using. So here's what we're going to do. To ensure that it stays, we're going to fix that cell reference. We're going to lock it. And to lock it, we use absolute cell addressing. To do absolute cell addressing, we put a $sign before the N, and a dollar before the column name, and a $sign before the row number. Instead of typing it, there's an easy way to do it. I can press F4 on my keyboard if you're using a desktop keyboard, or you can press function F4 on the if you don't have a full keyboard. So I'm going to use function on F4 and you notice the $sign there. All right, hold on please. So now that we have made this absolute, I'm going to press enter and I'm going to autofill. And you notice now the values have fixed. All I need to do at this point in time, not that the cells are highlighted, is to use my reduce or decrease decimal to set it to 2 decimal places. So I press on it until I get 2 decimal places. Then I set the number format to currency and we're good. And I'm going to pause, end the lesson here, and we're going to come back in another Zoom session so that we can continue.